Fragile X syndrome.
Hello, I'm Allery Lewis, and I will be talking about definitions and characteristics in this project for Fragile X syndrome.
Hello, I'm Fedra Castillo, and I'll be introducing the slide addressing the needs of students with Fragile X syndrome.
Hello, my name is Joseph Peterson, and my slide is community resources, services, and agencies available for students and their families with the condition.
Hello everybody, my name is Michelle Rojas. Today I'm going to be speaking to you about the condition of Fragile X syndrome. I'm going to be highlighting the views of the media, and I'm also going to be sharing with you some key takeaways in regards to this condition.
Hi everyone. Fragile X syndrome is a genetic disorder caused by a mutation of FMR1, gene located on the X chromosome. This mutation affects how the brain develops and functions. Fragile X syndrome is the most common inherited cause of intellectual disability because it is linked to the X chromosome. Males are typically more severely affected than females. Now, I will explain some main characteristics which can be grouped into cognitive, social, emotional, and behavioral, physical, and early development signs. Cognitive learning characteristics. Individuals with Fragile X syndrome often experience development delays. They may have difficulty with math, abstract thinking, and problem-solving skills. Speech and language development is commonly delayed. Intellectual disabilities can range from mild to severe, with males generally showing more significant challenges. Second, social emotional. Individuals experience anxiety and symptoms of ADHD, such as hyperactivity and impulsive. Some may show characteristics associated to autism spectrum disorder. Sensory sensitivities and common meaning, they may be overly sensitive to sound, lights, touch, textures, and repetitive behaviors such as hand flapping may also be observed. Third, physical characteristics features may become more noticeable with age. Some individuals have long face, large ears, flexible joints, or low muscle tone. However, physical traits can vary from person to person. Lastly, early development styles in childhood and early childhood delays in speech and language are often one of the first signs. Children may also muscle tone, which can affect crawling and walking due to milestones. In summary, Fragile X syndrome is a genetic condition that affects cognitive and development behavior. Physical growth, early identification can support such as speech therapy, occupational therapy, and educational accommodations. So increase awareness and understand support those that may struggle with Fragile X syndrome. Most importantly, people with Fragile X syndrome are more than a diagnosis. They are individuals with a unique strength, personality, and potential. With the right support, individuals with Fragile X syndrome can grow and learn and can live a meaningful life.
Hello, I'm Fedra Castillo, and I will be discussing the strategies addressing the needs of students with Fragile X syndrome. The general education recommendation for students that struggle with Fragile X syndrome mainly focuses on providing a common environment using visual schedules, incorporating sensory daily breaks, implementing small groups, or one-on-one instruction, and using the technological adaptations. Providing a calm environment. First bullet point is providing a calm environment. That is essential. In the article, it recommends, to the degree possible, providing a calm and quiet classroom environment with built-in breaks and predictability of daily routines. Consistency and predictability are keys to a successful classroom, which ultimately benefits all students. Says the quote from the article, it explains that a quiet classroom reduces the overstimulation and possible anxiety that the child could have. Having a quiet classroom improves focus, learning, development, and the preparation of instruction. This is recommended because the student feels safe in the classroom. Their best self will come out, which will go hand in hand and increase participation and understanding. Visual schedules. Our second bullet point is visual schedules, which is an important accommodation. The article reads, provide a visual schedule and/or transitional object or task to prompt transitions. In the case of a student who has Fragile X syndrome, it could be rather difficult when it comes to transitions. This is why we provide visual schedules. This helps a student see daily routines, reduces uncertainty, and this also supports their matter of independence, knowing what is going on and what's going to happen next. Once they understand that this is their daily school life, it becomes not only easier but more enjoyable. Sensory daily breaks. Our third bullet point is sensory daily breaks and how they are critical for regulation. The article reads that to infuse a sensory diet developed with an occupational therapist into the student's day to address the sensory process issues. We could help students with Fragile X syndrome be able to adapt to major changes by implementing a structure of breaks throughout a school day. The student having these breaks helps them be able to regulate attention, focus, and maintain engagement throughout the learning. Small group and one-on-one instruction. Fourth bullet point states, small group or one-on-one instruction is especially helpful when introducing new tasks. The article reads, use a small group or one-to-one instruction when teaching novel tasks. The pre-teaching activity can greatly increase the long-term success for the child in the general classroom environment. Having the student to one-on-one instruction in small groups helps the student become solely focused on work. Once they're better able to understand the work they are being taught, they gain confidence and will participate within their small group and eventually the whole class. Not only does this increase confidence, but it also increases their comprehension with the long-term academic success. Use of technological adaptations. For our last bullet point, technological adaptations support both academic performance and motor challenges. The article reads, use high and low technological adaptations such as word tiles, sticky notes, and the computer for writing assignments. Along with that, the article also explains modified mice, keyboards, and touchscreens can be used to interfere with technologies of educational purposes and to reduce motor demands, thus reducing limitations from motor dysphagia and allowing responses for a more reflective for the ability of the individual with FXS. While reading the article, this puts into perspective that motor demands help students also demonstrates their knowledge more accurately. Conclusion. In conclusion, addressing the needs of the student with Fragile X syndrome requires intentional support. This includes how to address the needs of a student that has Fragile X syndrome and who is in need of support. By doing so, we could incorporate by providing a calm environment, implementing visual schedules, incorporating sensory daily breaks, offering small group instruction, and using technological adaptations, all to promote the population, independence, and academic success.
Good afternoon, everyone. As teachers, we do more than just teach in the classroom. We also help our students and their families get the support they need. Sometimes families come to us for guidance or to find out about services that can help them. That's why it's important for us to know about the resources available in our community. For students with Fragile X syndrome, there are some really helpful resources out there. On this slide, I want to share some of these resources with you. By knowing what's available, we can better support our students' learning and their emotional well-being. We can help them succeed in school and in life. The National Fragile X Foundation is a great place to start. They're one of the top groups that help people with Fragile X syndrome. They have lots of useful things like educational materials for teachers, webinars, toolkits for parents, and local support groups. What's really cool about this organization is that they connect what researchers are learning with what's actually happening in people's lives. Families can meet other families who are going through similar things, and teachers can get strategies that are based on the latest research. This foundation makes sure that families don't feel alone and that teachers have the right information to help their students. They also have a lot of resources that can help teachers understand how to work with kids who have Fragile X syndrome, which is really important for making sure these kids get the support they need. By providing all these resources, the National Fragile X Foundation is helping to make a big difference in the lives of people with Fragile X syndromes and their families. The FRAXA Research Foundation is a valuable resource that focuses on funding studies to improve treatments and interventions for individuals with Fragile X syndromes. Although it may seem more medically oriented, it works has significant implications for educators, as research uncovers new insight into brain development, behavior support, and executive function. These findings can directly inform instructional strategies in the classroom. Moreover, families can stay up to date on clinical trials and new therapeutic approaches, which can be incredibly empowering. By bringing the gap between science and practice, the FRAXA Research Foundation plays a crucial role in connecting research and real-world applications, ultimately enhancing the lives of individuals with Fragile X syndrome. Early childhood intervention programs, or ECI services, are really important for young kids with Fragile X syndrome. These programs can include things like speech therapy, occupational therapy, and behavioral therapy, which can help kids develop and grow. Research has shown that getting help early on can make difference in how well kids can communicate, interact with others, and take care of themselves. As teachers, it helps for us to understand how these programs work so we can work together with people providing the services and make sure the kids get the support they need when they start school. This way we can help them have a smoother transition and get the most of their education by working together. We can help kids with Fragile X syndrome reach their full potential and have brighter futures. The fourth resource that's really helpful is parent training and information centers. These centers do a great job of helping families understand their rights when it comes to the Individual with Disabilities Education Act, also known as IDEA. They give parents the support they need to navigate the IEP process, figure out what accommodations are available, and advocate for their services their child needs. This is really important because, let's be honest, ARD and IEP meetings can be overwhelming for families. But when parents are informed and feel empowered, they become much stronger parents in their child's education, and that partnership has a direct impact on how well the student does. The resources all work together to help the students in different ways, with their schoolwork, social skills, health, and feelings. As teachers, we don't have to know everything, but we should be able to point families in the right direction when they need extra help. By telling people about these organizations and programs, we're making our school a more welcoming place, helping families feel more in control and building stronger relationships. Between our school and community, we're not just teachers, we're here to support our students and their families in the way we can. By working together, we can make sure everyone has what they need to succeed. In conclusion, supporting students with Fragile X syndrome requires collaboration between teachers, families, specialists, and community organizations. When connect families to these resources, we help create a comprehensive support system that promotes long-term success both sides and outside the classroom. Thank you.
So, what is Fragile X syndrome? Fragile X syndrome is a genetic disorder that can cause changes in a person's ability to learn and causes alternation in behaviors. What causes for Fragile X syndrome? It is caused by a mutation in the FMR1 gene. Some symptoms involved in Fragile X syndrome are autism spectrum disorders, intellectual disabilities, anxiety, hypersensitivity, ADHD, defections in language, anxiety and social abundances, aggression and outbursts. Some physical symptoms include reduction ears, hyperflexible fingers, and a flat feet. In addition to these primary symptoms, Fragile X syndrome can also be associated with other health issues such as seizures, sleep disturbances, and connective tissue problems. A little bit further about what causes Fragile X syndrome. It is caused by a mutation in the FMR1 gene on the X chromosome, which shuts down the production of a portion vital for the brain development. It is caused by an expanded DNA segment that turns off the gene. It is inherited and often affects males more severely. In regards to this information that I have shared with you, we have attached a video below that you're welcome to click on and learn a little bit further of what I shared
Fragile
with you.
X syndrome is a genetic disorder characterized by intellectual disabilities and a delayed speech or motor development, but also physical characteristics such as a long face and prominent ears and jaw. This syndrome does not shorten lifespan. To understand how this works, you need to know a little bit about DNA. There are 4 nucleotide bases called adenine, cytosine, guanine, and thymine, which make up our DNA. They pair with each other to form the helix shape of DNA, so adenine with thymine and guanine with cytosine. Next is chromosomes. Chromosomes are found in the nucleus of every cell in our body, and they carry DNA. Biological females have 2 X chromosomes, while biological males have an X chromosome and a Y chromosome. This is important. A gene is a portion of DNA on a chromosome with instructions for making a product, such as a protein. There is a gene called FMR1, which everyone has, but for people with Fragile X syndrome, they have a genetic mutation with this gene. Typically, people will have 5 to 44 triplet repeats of CGG, or cytosine, guanine, and guanine. But when people have more than 200 triplet repeats of CGG, the FMR1 gene basically turns off, so it can't produce the protein it's supposed to, which is called FMRP. This is essentially what causes Fragile X syndrome. People with Fragile X syndrome may also be diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder, ADHD, or seizure disorders. This is because of the intellectual disability that comes with Fragile X syndrome. But the lack of the FMRP protein also leads to a susceptibility to seizure disorders, such as epilepsy. Fragile X syndrome affects about 1 in 7,000 males and about 1 in 11,000 females, but its symptoms are greater in males. This is because the genetic mutation occurs on the X chromosome, which, if you remember, females have 2 X chromosomes, so they have another chromosome that can kind of compensate for the other. However, males only have 1 X chromosome, so they have more prominent symptoms. Since this is also a genetic mutation, it can be passed down, but what's interesting about the syndrome is that the number of repeats will increase if passed down to the next generation. Therefore, in the next generations, its symptoms will be greater. To diagnose this, doctors will take a blood test in order to examine the CGG repeats in the DNA. And there is no cure for this syndrome, but treatments target specific symptoms that a person displays. For example, behavioral therapy for learning how to walk, or educational therapy for intellectual disabilities.
Now, some key takeaways of Fragile X syndrome that I would like for you to learn is learning about what gender is affected more, some signs, some symptoms, and the treatment. So in gender, it affects mostly more males than what it affects females. As we mentioned, some feature physicals characteristics are having a long face and having a long ears. Some signs and symptoms of Fragile X syndrome include delayed speech, language skills, challenges with attention, anxiety, and sometimes behaviors like being very active. Doctors can diagnose Fragile X syndrome through a blood test that looks for the changes in the FMR1 gene. Treatment, while there is no cure for Fragile X syndrome, various treatments can help, like therapy, special education, and support groups can also make a difference. In regards to learning about these 3 key takeaways and the perspectives of the media in this condition, we just want to thank you. Your kindness and understanding in regards to this condition. We want to spread awareness and provide the necessary support for those affected by this condition. So we want to thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Before leaving, we'd highly encourage you to check out our digital handout, which provides a brochure related to everything that we had just talked about. The brochure summarizes the definition, 3 characteristics, suggesting for addressing needs, and web links that are community resources open for you guys. Once you have scanned the QR code, this brochure will pop up. This is regarding defining the Fragile X syndrome, which is a genetic disorder, as we have talked about throughout the video. It's also the most common inherited one with the intellectual disability. This reason being because it mostly runs with families that have symptoms that vary from person to person. So we can conclude this is very much generational. This also hits the 3 main characteristics, which is the cognitive learning characteristics, and many things that students could experience which may be severely difficult for them. The act of abstract thinking, the delay in speech, and language development. These challenges impact how they process information and communicate, and engaging with the academical learning. Another point that we also hit in this brochure was the social, emotional, and behavioral characteristics. Again, like one of my other teammates have mentioned, this hits severity when it comes to ADHD, autism, experiencing anxiety, or having sensory sensitivities. This also relies on their behaviors, which are most likely affected socially. In conclusion, Fragile X syndrome is a genetic disorder most common inherited because of the intellectual disability, understanding social, emotional, and behavioral wise. Again, thank you for joining us and watching this video presentation. Over here we have the links and references. Feel free to go and check them out as well. And if any questions, refer back to the video as many times as you like. Again, thank you very much.